Namaste friends and welcome back to my channel. As you may be aware, a new mobile tower is coming up close to our plot. Mobile towers have earned a lot of adverse publicity both because of activists as well as environmentalists. In this video, we shall take a look at the rules, the evidence of harm and what the courts have said in this matter. The graphic on the screen shows the location of the upcoming mobile tower vis-a-vis our property. This is a Google Earth screenshot, and the distance that is shown by the yellow line is from the measuring tool of the Google Earth app. And what it shows is that the approximate location is around 30.11 meters or 99 feet. So, is it hazardous? And what can we do about it? That is the topic of our video today. To begin with, first a disclaimer. I declare that I do not have any business interest. I'm not pursuing any social agenda. I'm just a neutral educationist and a learner. I maintain a purely clinical approach that is based on peer-reviewed research papers. It is not a typical pseudoscience stuff that you see on WhatsApp or YouTube. And all the information which I have mentioned in this particular video has been quoted in the last two slides and is also available in the description box of the video. The sources of information are restricted to international peer-reviewed prestigious medical journals and legislation, regulations and court judgments, all of which are quoted at the end of the video. We must first understand that the whole affair is not a real linear problem. It has three principal dimensions. It is more like a three-way tug-of-war. On one hand, we have the narrative that has been built up by the media and the environmentalists. This is, of course, prompted with a political agenda. Then we have telecom companies who are trying to maximize their profits and provide better service to their customers. And finally, we have the people who act as the jury and judge or the umpires of this match, and that is legislation and judiciary. That leaves us, the consumer, in a confused state of mind. This is what the American Cancer Society has to say. They say that the amount of exposure from living near a cell phone tower typically is many times lower than the exposure from using a cell phone. In other words, it is more dangerous to use a mobile phone than to live near a tower. The American Cancer Society goes on to say, several dozen studies have looked at possible links between cell phone use and tumors in people. Most studies to date have not found a link between cell phone use and cancer. The US National Toxicological Program, or the NTP, has this to say. It states that NTP has not included radiofrequency radiation in its report on carcinogens, that means substances or environments that create cancer, which lists exposures that are known to be or reasonably anticipated to be human carcinogens. Here is what the venerable BMJ, or the British Medical Journal, has to say. Even in the most vulnerable situation or conditions such as pregnancy and prenatal development, no association with cancer was found. Here's another researcher from Texas A&M University. His name is Professor Christopher Byard. And what he says is that the electromagnetic waves from all the cell phone systems, including 5G systems, cause zero harm to humans. Further, the radio waves from cell phones do not mutate DNA, nor do they damage cells, and do not even interfere with biological functions, not even a little bit. Dr. Byard uses the example of energy emitted by a candle for comparison, and he states that a candle flame emits 1,000 to 1,000,000 times more energy per photon than a cell phone. The UK watchdog, known as the British Health Security Agency has stated that the overall conclusion was that although a substantial amount of research has been conducted in this area, there is no convincing evidence that radio frequency field exposures below the guideline levels cause health effects in either adults or in children. In the course of this video, we shall later see that the guideline levels in India are almost a tenth of the values that are prevalent in the United Kingdom, in United States, Australia and Canada, and many other Western countries. Now, if we are planning any action, agitation, protest or litigation against the upcoming tower, we have to build it on a sound legal foundation. Now, as we know, we have the legislation and the rules, but all these are subject to interpretation. And that is where the concept of case law comes in. A judgment by a High Court or a Supreme Court establish a precedent, and that precedent influences how the law is understood and enforced. This is termed as the doctrine of stare decisis, which means that courts are bound to follow precedents. So let us see what are the precedents of the judgments, and there are quite a few. All across the country, different state high courts have given quite unanimously decisions which we shall now be reviewing. Now let us take a look at just two cases which have been judged by the Bombay High Court. The first one involves Indus Towers Limited versus Astha Anand Niketan. This Astha Anand Niketan is actually a special needs school, and they were litigating that this tower is likely to cause health effects on their students. Ultimately, the court ruled that there are no ill effects of radiation. In another case, which is known as the Biju Balan versus the State of Maharashtra case, the court held that there is no scientific material or data warranting prohibition on installation of mobile towers. Let us take a further look at how courts in the rest of India have viewed this particular issue. We must remember that judges only look at evidence, and they are above commercial interests like mobile service companies, and they are neither activists nor are they politicians. So here is what Honorable Madras High Court had to say in writ petition number 2242 of 2021. In this case, the Gram Panchayat and the residents of the village of Tamil Nadu were forcibly preventing Indus Towers Limited, who were erecting a tower. Indus Towers sought police protection and support from the district collector and the municipal commissioner. They failed to intervene. In other words, they tacitly allowed hindrance of work. So that is why they went to court to seek permission to erect the tower. Now you can see that Indus Tower is a name that has appeared a second time. So these people are quite battle hardened at winning such cases. To cut the story short, the Madras High Court ruled that this court has consistently taken the view that no one can be prevented from erecting the cell tower phone on the mere apprehension about the effects of radiation from a cell phone tower. The apprehension does not have a scientific backing. Another very interesting case is from the Himachal Pradesh High Court. It is writ petition number 8283 of 2012. It is a 40-page judgment, and it is a very educative document. The case was about prohibiting the installation of a tower adjoining the houses. This is quite similar to our situation. This is a very detailed judgment, and it goes into every aspect of the matter. This single document itself is very educative. The court had to decide, are the radio frequency radiations from mobile towers and phones in a range which is injurious to health? Or is it a myth which can be conveniently brushed aside? Very precise. And this is what the judges had to say in their judgment. They said, in fact, on analysis it was found that the radiation from the mobile base station is less compared to that of an AM or an FM radio station. Further, radio frequency waves used for mobile phones are not covered under the definition of radiation as given in the Atomic Energy Act of 1962. The reason I selected this particular judgment of Himachal Pradesh High Court is that it covers and cites the judgments of many other high courts all across the country. For example, it has cited the high courts of Kerala, Jammu and Kashmir High Court, Allahabad High Court, Jharkhand High Court and the Gujarat High Court. What they say is that Indian norms are 10 times stricter than International Commission for Non-Ionizing Radiation Protection or the ICNIRP. Further, India has thus become one of the 10% of the countries having the most stringent norms of EM exposure. EM stands for electromagnetic. The Himachal Pradesh High Court goes on to say that there was no indication in any of the studies and reports which may establish any adverse impact of radio frequency waves from the cell phone towers on human health, and this should be brought to the notice of the public at large through TV, radio, etc. So that is sufficient reason for making this video now. From the same judgment, we come to know that the World Health Organization has referred to approximately 25,000 articles which have been published around the world over the past 30 years. And based on an in-depth review of scientific literature, the court has concluded current evidence does not confirm the existence of any health consequences from exposure to low-level electromagnetic fields. Now here is a statement from the Minister of Communication and Information Technology that he made in a reply to a written question in the Lok Sabha. The minister states that as a precautionary principle, norms for exposure limits to the radio frequency field in bracket base station emissions have been reduced to 1/10 of the existing limits prescribed by the International Commission on Non-Ionizing Radiation Protection with effect from 1st September 2012. Now, merely making rules does not suffice. There have to be penalties for violations too. Now let us look at what the Department of Telecommunication or DOT has to say about deviation from compliance to its rules. What it says is, if the site fails to meet with the EMR criterion, a penalty of rupees 5 lakhs would be levied for every BTS per service provider. Further, moreover, if the service provider fails to meet with the criterion within 1 month of the report of the term cell, the site would be shut down. We shall shortly see what the word or acronym term or TERM means. So as you can see, the penalties are pretty stiff. The Department of Telecommunication has also specified safe distances from buildings. In this table, you can see that the first column shows the number of antenna pointing in the same direction towards the buildings. The second column shows the corresponding safe distance. If only one antenna is pointing directly towards the building, the safe distance is 20 meters. If two are pointing, the safe distance is 35 meters. The TRAI, or the Telecommunication Regulatory Authority of India, also does random sample checks, and they cover about 10% of the population of towers. Now, in case you have a doubt, you can report it to the TERM, and what it stands for is Telecom Enforcement and Resources Monitoring Cell. This is located in various parts of the country, and there, as we'll see in the next slide, it's located in Pune as well. These checks are there to see if radiation is within compliance limits, and if they are not, they will resolve the public grievance and the complaint which you make. As we already seen, the penalties are also prescribed. Now here are the details of the TERM offices in Pune. They have one office in Camp, and the email address is shown on the slide. So now let's see what has been done so far. The township management and the builder has been informed about our concerns, and the builder has personally reassured over the phone that the plot has been selected by Airtel and it complies with all the DOT regulations. What can be done next? Well, we ask the builder to submit the TERM test report, and if the test report fails, the tower will have to be decommissioned. As mentioned earlier, here is a list of all the references that have been used for preparing this video. You'll find the same references in the description box. This is in continuation of the list of references of the previous slide. So friends, that brings us to the end of this video. Thank you very much for your attention and your time, and we shall meet once again on another topic at another point of time. Thank you and bye-bye.